control over there? You're good. What are we doing next? Okay, so Mr. Ott with MBCon could not be here this evening either, but I wanted to share some information with you on his behalf. At this time, really, the main update from MBCon is in reference to the grant funding. Until we know whether or not we are going to receive additional grant funding, we're really in a holding pattern before determining next steps. In reference to the new grant, I sent out a detailed explanation in email and on social media. Someone sent the social media piece out for me. Earlier this week, following the county commissioners meeting, when they approved the grant application. As a reminder, the Board of Education approved the grant application in January, and I will not share that entire email, obviously, with you tonight, but I will hit a few highlights for the benefit of people who have not seen that. So first, the original plan when Mosley Architects and MBCon and really Timmons Group with the site work, or the site plan, when they were designing this building and this school site originally, the original price of this building of this facility was right around $64 million. You will recall that the amount of grant funding that we received in the first and second round of applications totaled $12,287,400. The bond referendum passed for a maximum of $33 million. So when added together, those two dollar amounts equal $45,287,400. And so that became the maximum budget for the project. Because of the difference between that figure and $64 million, the Board of Education worked to reduce the scope of the project by eliminating things like the auditorium and the auxiliary gym and some things that are a little less obvious in order to bring it within budget. When the latest state budget passed, it included a third round of grants, and what had been a $15 million maximum grant in the past for a new high school became a $50 million grant. So obviously we wanted to apply. Does he have a hard time hearing me? Obviously we wanted to apply, and we'll be doing so. The Board of Education again approved the new grant application in January, and the commissioners approved it at their meeting this past Monday evening. Now that's the submission of the grant. In order to get the maximum amount possible, we added back all the things to the scope of the project that the Board of Education had eliminated previously. And in a perfect world, that would have taken us back to the approximately $64 million budget. But with everything that has gone on in the last couple of years in our country with rising construction costs and so forth, MBCon now estimates the cost of the original project to be more like $69,636 instead of $64 million. So that is the figure that we included in our project budget for the purpose of applying for the new grant. Applications for the grant are due March 15th, and the estimated date of notification is April 12th. Once we know how much, if any, additional grant funding we will receive, next steps will then be determined. It could be that we receive the full $50 million, and then that we are able to contribute the difference from the $33 million bond referendum. And it could be that we receive less than the board. We could receive less, and then the board would have to come back and decide which things to eliminate again. We just can't, we can't look at any of that until we know whether or not we're getting more grant funding, and if so, how much. The most important thing to keep in mind here is that we want to submit the full maximum project budget in an effort to maximize the amount of additional grant funding that we receive. That is why we submitted the $69 million figure. Of course, any additional grant funding above the $12 million that we currently have would be a huge help and greatly appreciated. But please keep your fingers crossed for the full $50 million. And I'll take any questions that you have about any of that.
Could you say again what was the timeline of grant awards or notification?
They are estimating April 12th. So remember when we submitted before, we didn't find out until October or November. They're doing a much quicker turnaround this time.
And the 50 million would be not an additional 50, it would be the balance of the
A
50.
total of
what we
50.
had.
Yes, sir, including the 12 million that we already have.
So our
Yes.
maximum award would be about 38 million if they gave us the full 50.
Yes, sir. 50 is the maximum that you can get total.
And looking at the program criteria evaluation, the very first priority listed on here is counties who have previously received grant funding but have not begun work on the project.
Mhm.
Number one, over tier, over everything.
Yeah, we are actually very well aligned to get a significant increase in grant funding. So, and you know, when we had a $45 million budget and a maximum grant of 50 million, we weren't going to go in and ask for 45 million or with a $45 million budget and hope that we'd get the 50 million because that wouldn't happen. So that's why we went back with the full scope of the project to get the maximum amount of grant funding.
And some type of grant funding is very favorable for us as well, because it's also based on your sales tax collections, basically evaluating the industry that you have in your county to contribute to school capital needs.
That's right. Yeah. Like I said, we're really well aligned to get a significant amount of funding, and so I'm very hopeful that that will happen. Of course, anything above the 12 million is helpful, right?
And it's zero match.
And there's no match on
There's no
this.
match.
So there's no required match on the new round of grants, that's correct, but we will still likely have to have some skin in the game, so to speak, if we go with anything close to the full-scale project, of course. But, you know, in a perfect world, we'd get the 50 million, build the school that we need within reason, within the scope of the project, and still reduce the tax impact from the bond referendum on all citizens. That would be kind of the perfect scenario.
Can we do the commissioner's plan to decrease the taxes if we get this?
That is not a question that I have the answer to. You'd have to ask
And
them.
I didn't get to watch the meeting from them. Like, was there any discussion about the 3-cent tax increase that they imposed for operational costs? Because it's well over a year in advance
There
before
was
we ever get to school.
no discussion about that. So, well, there was a little bit of discussion about operational costs, but not specifically that. Any other questions?
All right. Seeing no further discussion, we'll continue to item B, school highlights. Ms. Amber Davis, Principal of Camden County High School.
Hey, good evening. Thank you guys for having me. So whenever you ask for highlights, it's always interesting because I try to do something different every year. Sometimes we talk, sometimes we shoot videos and we do different things. But this year has been a really interesting year. I think it's been an interesting year for anybody in education, wherever you're coming from with it. But it's been a really interesting year coming back from COVID. I think we've all dealt with things, including you guys, that you've never had to deal with before with that. So, you know, when we were talking about the administrative team and teachers and all kind of talking about what we wanted to do, we really decided we just wanted to focus on the good stuff and the fun stuff and the stuff that's made an impact on us this year. So that's kind of what we did. We didn't go deep. We didn't go heavy. We just said, hey, let's find the good stuff we did and focus on it, because we found ourselves throughout the year needing to focus on that a lot. So We just made a video. I got to give a shout out to the best administrative intern ever, Miss Mara Swindell, who couldn't be here tonight because she had some family stuff going on. But she is much better at putting things together than I am. I was throwing a bunch of pictures up there and she was like, no, we gotta make it pretty. So she made it much prettier than I ever would have made it. I do want to take a moment just to thank you guys for your support at all times. It has been a tough year in so many ways, and I do appreciate everything that you guys have done for me, as well as Dr. Farrell and Central Office. So thank you guys for everything you've done for the high school. We do appreciate it with that. So anyway, so this is the highlight so far. We still have a little while left, don't we, Miss Senior back there? A little bit of time left. So we do have a little bit of time left, but this is our year so far. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Letters training update, same as last year, Chief Academic Officer.
meeting. Thank you for giving me some time to go over exciting opportunity that we have for our teachers coming up. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about letters training. We are in the preliminary stages of getting set up and implementing this. There's been 3 cohorts, and we are actually cohort 3, and so we will start this process with teachers July, August timeframe, and I have my first meeting with them March 21st scheduled. So I'm going to go over some things, but I'm not going to have a lot of specifics until I have that meeting with them. But I just wanted to go over this with you all because it's a lot that we're that our teachers are being asked to do. All right, so what is LETRS? LETRS is Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, which is a product of Voyager Sopris Learning. It addresses 4 critical components for effective literacy instruction: understanding the science of reading, converting research to practice, enhancing teacher effectiveness, and transforming instruction. So it's the why behind science and evidence-based research to help our students learn to read. Whoops, I'm sorry, went too far. So why letters training? Senate Bill 387, the Excellence of Public Schools Act, and part of Read to Achieve says that we have to. Educators working with children in NC pre-K program and students kindergarten through 5th grade shall participate in letters training programs. Completion of this training shall satisfy the literacy continuing education credits required for elementary school teachers. So each local school administrative unit shall evaluate its literacy curriculum and instructional methods and shall modify as necessary to adhere to an effective literacy program. We also have to, this year starting, submit a literacy plan for grades K through 3, and that will also be tied to our summer reading camp that we've been offering for quite a few years that goes along with Read to Achieve. So what is the science of reading? It is basically decades of research that was done that we now know how the brain learns to read. And that reading is not really natural to the human brain, that it does have to be taught. So in case you want more information on it, here's a handout that you can peruse at your leisure. All right, so who's required to attend letters training? The state is going to provide funding for the following staff members: all homeroom teachers, K-5 and pre-K, 1 administrator per school, 1 instructional coach per school, lead teachers working with children in our NC pre-K program, and that's some questions I have for them when we do have our implementation program because they're not really part of our school site, but off-site. Our EC resource teachers and our elementary EOL teacher. And then how will letters training be deployed? So each public school unit will provide a point of contact for letters training, which will be me. And I will work closely with a representative from Voyagers, and we will work together to plan this training for our teachers, as well as preschool. So what is the format of letters training? So for our K-5 teachers, training occurs in 8 training sessions, which may be virtual or face-to-face, that will occur over the course of 4 semesters. So this is a 2-year program. They will have 8 self-paced online units, which will be approximately 58 hours. They will have related readings, which will take around 26 hours. And they will have time dedicated to applying their learned skills in their classroom, which is designated as a bridge to practice, and that's approximately 25 hours. So as you can see, that's a lot of hours being devoted to this training. Letters for early childhood educators will be 4 self-paced online units, related readings, and the same bridge to practice. And then our administrators will have 2 training sessions, which may be virtual or face-to-face, and these sessions will occur over 1 year. They're self-paced online units and related readings as well. And then K-5 training is to complete 2 units per semester. And can you push that red? See the red where it says 2 years? Can you push that for me?
You said click on it?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to kind of give you an outline of what it possibly will look like. But this is mandatory. They're very serious about this. If they miss sessions, it has to be made up. I have to monitor and make sure teachers are completing the sessions. Yeah, so unit 1, each unit has about 8 sessions. And as you can see there, it's about 5 to 6.5 hours of the online instruction, and this is just unit 1. Reading is about 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Bridge to practice is 2.5 to 3 hours. Face-to-face is 6, and the total is about 16 to 19.5 hours, and that's for unit 1. And so it's about 20 hours every quarter, really, is what we're asking of our teachers. We are trying very hard to be strategic with the calendar, and the calendar might look differently in the next 2 years than what you're used to seeing, because we're trying to build as much time as we possibly can with using mandatory work days, some early release days to give them time to work on this. Some will be, like I said, during those times, and some is going to have to be on their own. Each unit also requires a 6-hour live training session with Voyagers, where they will come in. Because of COVID, they've been doing a lot of that virtually. A session I was at in November, they said they were hoping to get back to face-to-face for the next school year, but it really just depends. If we do you're good, Joe, it doesn't matter. That was the end of it. If we do face-to-face, it has to be a 6-hour chunk of time. If it's virtual, we can break it up and do 3 to 3. So that gives us a little bit more flexibility. Complete self-paced, and each unit must be passed with a goal of 80% mastery. So just wanted to let you know, I'm sure you're probably going to hear some feedback from this, but it's part of Senate Bill 387. So we're just going to try to make the best of it. I will say, positive note is that at least we were cohort 3 and we've had time to plan. Cohort 1 started in August when their calendars were already done, and they've had to put in a lot of time outside of their normal instructional day to make this happen. So, any questions about letters training? All right.
I've got a couple, and if you don't have the answers tonight, I
Okay.
completely understand, but
Sure.
just a few that came to thought. And if I missed it, please accept. But was there any mention of any stipend or anything that goes along with this? Because I just figured out for a teacher, it's 109 hours of coursework.
Could be, yes. Actually, PRC 85 just came out. We do not have any information on it. It was passed in November. I just got some information on it February 4th with a webinar coming up on the 17th. We're hopefully offering some more information. But yes, there has been money set aside for substitutes. Finding enough subs to cover that many teachers for training is probably going to be a problem. But they also included that besides the substitutes is money for a stipend. So hopefully we'll be able to offer them something.
What is going to be the complexity of fitting all this into our school calendar law
It's tight.
in addition to regular PD, professional development, that you have set up for the entire district? I know you use early release days a lot of times for professional development.
Right, so what we're thinking is K-5 teachers who are going to be going through this, anytime we have a school or a district professional development early release day, they will be allowed to work on this and they won't be expected to attend other PD. And then we will still have PD offered for our 6 through 12 folks. And as far as the calendar, it's tight. Ms. Lane and I have been working on it. We had our first calendar meeting Monday of this week, and we're trying to make sure we have a mandatory work day built into every quarter to allow time for those live trainings that we have to schedule, but we are at the mercy of Voyagers. And so I can say this is what our calendar looks like, and these are our requested dates, but they have to approve it. So it could be that we approve a calendar and then have to revisit it and change a few of the dates. Hopefully we don't have to do that, or hopefully we don't have to change very many, but we are at the mercy of them. So.
So Dr. Farrell, would it be judicious to say you could draft something if it's the board's pleasure on our behalf to send to our lawmakers that we really need some calendar flexibility to assist our teachers in being able to implement their ask to be done, that you will do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Where calendar is concerned, just one quick blurb. Right now, we have to start school on August 29th for 22-23 school year. There's a lot of advocacy to start on August 22nd. Don't know if there's any movement on that just yet, but I know that that's at least one piece that's out there. But yeah, we can work on that. For all members.
Anyone else have any comments or questions from Ms. Lashley? If not, thank you.
Once I have a more concrete plan, I'll be happy to share it.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Camden County School Strategic Plan Update, Superintendent Farrell and Ms. Lashley.
So as a reminder, we had said that we would start after the new year, the new calendar year, giving you all an update monthly on a couple of the goals of our strategic plan. So I will start with goal one. As a reminder, goal one of the strategic plan states that all Camden County schools will provide a safe and secure environment. During the pandemic, we have been a little less focused on this goal than any of us would have liked. In October, I started refocusing my thoughts on goal one. And one of the action steps of goal one is to create a school and site safety and security team, or a school system and individual school and site safety and security team, as well as the district team. So we have now done that. The district team members started meeting in November of 2021 and have continued and will continue to meet monthly to refocus us as a district on goal one. So far, we have updated our black box protocols, updated our emergency communication protocols, decided which types of drills we will focus on first as we refocus our efforts on safety and security. We've started to discuss the importance of a common language where emergency situations are concerned, started working to update our safety and security quick reference flip charts, started working on our emergency response trailer to be sure all needed items are in the trailer and updated as needed, and that there's a plan to actually get the trailer to an emergency site as needed. And reached out to local emergency management to invite them to our meetings, to share our plans and learn what is needed from them where emergency situations are concerned. They plan to attend all of our monthly meetings. We had our first meeting on February 9th this week, where our emergency management director attended, and I felt like that meeting went really, really well, as I'm seeing a couple of heads nod. And so we spent some time updating him on where we are, and he spent some time giving us some information that was very helpful. Just so that you're aware, there is they are conducting a training a little later in February to help school systems in our area be more prepared for how to get those emergency plans created, make sure all the components are there and all that, and we will be in attendance at that training. So this district safety and security team will be the liaison between the group and schools to ensure that all stakeholders are kept informed. I need to say a huge thank you to the members of that team. They've put a lot of work in and they're doing amazing work so far. All of our principals are on that team and at least one representative from each school, as well as representatives from central office. So I do appreciate the work. As you know, with goal one, safety and security, it's kind of ongoing because we have to continuously work on this goal. When I reviewed goal one for things that I felt like we had already completed, there's really one thing that we completed, and that is that we now have an SRO on each site. We have gone from one SRO for the district when our strategic plan was originally adopted to 3. So we have one at every school site now. The 2 high schools share one, CIS and GPS share one, and there is one stationed at the middle school. This is a huge accomplishment that would not have been possible without a little grant funding, support of our county commissioners, and support of Sheriff Kevin Jones. So thank you to those individuals for their support as well. And that's my update for goal 1 for now, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Slash.
I had goal 2, which states that all Camden County schools will provide increased academic support for exemplary classroom teaching and instructional leadership. We've been focusing on, well, professional development has been a huge part of that and has been provided on early release days. I will say, as Ms. Davis said, that it's been an overwhelming year and teachers have had a lot on their plate with trying to make sure they're keeping up with kids who are quarantined and out of the building, as well as instructing the students who are in their classroom in front of them. And so we were approached and asked if some of the district days that teachers could have time to work in their rooms. And so what we ended up doing was we split the time. We at least offered one session that teachers could attend, and then we gave them also time to work in their rooms on items such as their 6 hours of the SEL training that they had to complete this year. So there was time for them to do that. They wanted to have MTSS meetings or grade level meetings, just whatever they wanted to focus on, we gave that time to them. With all math teachers in the district, we have been working on creating math curriculum guides. And Ms. Jump and myself offered PD for all math teachers on October 13th and January 26th. The January 26th PD, we offered a menu of choices for teachers to choose from. We had an AIG certification session that they can attend. We had time for SEL again. We had differentiated instruction. We had SchoolNet. So we had some things that they could choose from. Let's see. Ms. Jump has been working with teachers to create common assessments in the area of math that go along with the math curriculum guides we're creating at each grade level. MTSS district team and school teams have been focusing on our time on redefining core instruction. And CCRG was approved in the budget. And so information has been coming out with that, which is part of our goal 2 that we'll be working towards making sure is implemented next year. And school improvement plans have been created with most schools finishing, being data-driven and supporting student growth and academics, but also social emotional needs as well. Any questions? All right, thank you.
And next month, we'll get an update on goals 3 and 4.
Thank you for those updates. Update on the contract for public health, school health liaison nursing services, Superintendent Trey.
Yes, so Albemarle Regional Health Services has received notification from the state about some additional funding available to them. And they would like to pass those funds on again to the school nurse health liaison position. They were able to fund for the 21-22 school year. The amount of funding for next school year, the 22-23 school year, will be $75,000 to be used starting in August of 2022. As a reminder, the amount this current year is $100,000 for this current school year. The board approved the MOU with ARHS on November 4th. Julie White, the middle school nurse, is our liaison with Albemarle Regional Health Services. I reached out to her today to find out how that was going, if there are any concerns. And from her perspective, that is going just fine, and there are no concerns. We do not, at this time, anticipate any changes to the MOU, but of course, if there are changes to that, I would bring it back to the board, but this is just an extension of the current MOU that we have agreed to for now. Any questions about that?
Seeing none, we will have our student board members updates by Ms. Libby Coker and Ms. Morgan.
So for GPS, they would like to congratulate Maureen Addis for being voted Certified Employee of the Year. February 11th was declared Amy Banks Day in honor of School Counselor Week. Last week, the GPS students and staff celebrated the 100th day of school. Today, the GPS students and staff were excited to take their class pictures.
Mine's
Next
on.
week, Next week, the GPS students and staff will be celebrating Spread the Love Week. This is the week we honor our bus drivers, custodians, and cafeteria workers. For CIS, they had fun celebrating the 100th day of school as well. The PTO is selling candy grants for Valentine's Day. Tomorrow's the last day to purchase them. Their progress reports went out yesterday. This week, they celebrated their counselor, Dr. Weisinger. Next week, they'll celebrate their bus drivers as well. For CNS, they took the math NC check-in and will take the ELA and science NC check-ins next week. Thursday, February 8th, 39 students were indicated into the National Junior Beta Club in the ceremony in the CMS auditorium. Their 8th graders had an opportunity to tour the CCHS and early college on Wednesday, February 9th, and hosted the CCH and early college parent information night in the CMS auditorium. Tryouts for spring sports start on February 22nd, and baseball and softball kick off our spring sports scheduled on March 16th versus River Road Middle School.
For Camden High School, our swim team competed in the conference and regional swim meets and did very well. Paige Strecker will go to the state swim meet this weekend in Raleigh to compete. Our men and women's basketball teams will have their final regular season game tomorrow night at Mania. We had our winter athlete senior night on Wednesday where we recognized our senior athletes from swim, cheer, and men and women's basketball. We recognized our classified employee of the year, Ms. Allison Harris. We hosted, along with the early college, the rising ninth graders from Camden Middle School at CCHS, where we conducted a tour of the high school and had our students and staff do a presentation of the highlights of our school, as well as sent students to the middle school during lunch for a Q&A session with the 8th graders and held the 8th grade parent information night last night at Camden Middle School. This Saturday, we will host our first ever Junior ROTC competition at Camden Middle School at 7 a.m. And we will also host the conference cheer competition at noon in the CCHS gymnasium. For the early college, congratulations to Ms. Cassie Bell Reber for being selected as CEC's Classified Employee of the Year. This week is National School Counseling Week. We greatly appreciate Ms. Lauren Carnes Clemens for all she does for our students at CEC. On January 31st, CEC and CHS students in Team Court participated in a case at the historic courthouse. On February 2nd, Mackenzie Booth had her official signing day for the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, where she will play volleyball. On February 4th, several CEC students participated in the regional swim meet, including Brianna Cooper, Jacob Cooper, Wyatt Grunman, Stella Sophia, Mackenzie Booth, Aiden Yu, and Maddox Mitchell. CEC students Aaliyah Anderson, Riley Rios, and Kendall Mitchell helped lead the Lady Bruins basketball team to a great season. CEC senior Austin Weddle helped lead the Bruins basketball team, and CEC juniors Caleb Flanagan and Caitlin Johnson will participate in a cheerleading conference competition this Saturday. CEC is excited for warm weather and spring sports. CEC participated in the CMS 8th grade tours over the past couple weeks and held question and answer sessions for the upcoming application process. Parent night was held Wednesday at CMS. And lastly, the February driver's education class started on the 7th and goes through the 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. And board pack was our monthly financial update. Is there any questions or comments for the finance director? Seeing none. Action agenda item A, face covering policy code 4231.
At the end of last week, we were at a total of 19 positive cases and 41 quarantines across the district. Numbers for this week, I have on here, will officially be posted tomorrow, but I think they were actually posted today. We had a total of 8 positive cases this week and 20 quarantines. So the numbers from last week were pretty much cut in half on both of those, a little more so with positive cases. Obviously, the nurses at every school are reporting a decrease. Our current policy is masks optional unless the school or site reaches 10%. We are not close to 10% at any site. You all are required as a reminder to consider this mask mandate monthly or mask policy monthly. And so that's the information. And how would you like to proceed?
We just need, if we're not changing anything, we still need to take some action just to say we have not made any changes. Our policy in place.
Make a motion to keep the current mask policy in place.
Motion by Mr. Purcell that we keep the current face coverings policy code 4231 in place. Seconded by Dr. Banks. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Parent organizations policy code 5010, Ms. Sally Wolford, Chief Financial Officer.
Good evening. Policy 5010 does parent organizations, and I've been attending the NC Directors Academy, and in some of those classes, PTOs have come up. So I'm suggesting a change in the policy. I believe that was in your packet, and it's in the yellow highlighted section. The reason for this is PTOs are a separate entity. They have their own tax ID number. The only thing that kind of connects them to the school is the name. And every year, we used to audit their books, but we have been told that that is not a good practice, because if something is in there that is missed by me or one of my staff members, then the school system is liable. So my suggestion is that every year they just submit an annual financial statement to the superintendent, and if he sees anything out of line, then we can request to actually look at their books and go over and then actually tell them they need to get an independent audit to make sure that there is nothing going on with their books. So I'm just suggesting that you review that, and then I know you have to table it for 30 days. So.
My recommendation is that you table the change to policy 5010 as presented by the superintendent.
Motion by Ms. Ida to accept the superintendent's recommendation to table policy 5010 with revisions as presented on this hopefully until our next regular meeting. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
School safety and security contract, Superintendent Farrell.
As I mentioned to you all during my Goal 1 strategic plan update earlier this evening, we have not been as focused on safety and security since the onset of COVID, and it is time for us to get back to that. I shared with you that our district safety and security team has come together, and we have started working on getting us back to a place where we once were, with emergency plans, practice drills, and a greater emphasis on student and staff safety and security. In an effort to get us to the highest level possible, I'm bringing to you for consideration tonight a safety and security contract between Camden County Schools and Lake Lawrence. The term of the contract would begin in February of 2022 and terminate at the end of June 2022. And the maximum contract amount would be $14,000 to be billed at a maximum of $2,800 per month across the 5 months. Mr. Lawrence would be responsible for the things that I have included on a list for you this evening, and I will share that list for the benefit of the public and those present now. So the duties and responsibilities would include the items or the actions in action steps in Goal 1 of the strategic plan. He would lead the district safety and security team, serve as liaison between Camden County Schools and emergency management, not including law enforcement. He would update the required black boxes and emergency response plans required by law. He would serve as the point of contact between the school district and the 4 reunification sites that we have, update and maintain the emergency response trailer, ensure that each site has a safety and security team and that all team members are communicating with stakeholders at that site, conduct physical safety and security checks at all sites, make recommendations for improvements, and follow up to ensure that recommendations are addressed, and that would be buildings, campuses, and some school system sponsored events. Conduct all safety and security drills to include lockdown drills, evacuation drills, fire, severe weather, and other emergency situations. Conduct staff training for CPR, first aid, or ensure that staff is trained for CPR, first aid, and AED. Drills, reunification, and tabletop exercises as appropriate. Fire extinguisher training, threat assessment, National Incident Management System training, how to recognize and respond to students or adults in crisis. Review any background checks conducted by outside vendors or companies. Student, parent, and staff education on topics such as vaping, illicit substances, social media, online dangers, and other situations as they arise and where appropriate. Serve as the district point of contact or one of the points of contact for the Watchdogs program. Serve as a member of the team looking at safety and security protocols and features of the new high school, and other duties as requested by the superintendent and/or Board of Education. And so with that, I would ask the board attorney if there's anything that you would like to add at this time to further the discussion we had.
I don't think so, as long as somebody's got the language for the motion that was discussed earlier.
Right. So given that, my request is that you authorize me to enter into the agreement.
All right, I'll make a motion that we advise the superintendent to enter into an agreement with Mr. Lawrence for the safety and security service once an agreement for those services has been approved by the board's attorney.
Motion has been made by Mr. Heath for the superintendent to engage in an agreement with Mr. Lawrence for the safety and security service once agreed upon. Was an agreement for this services has been approved by the board attorney and seconded by Ms. Adlet. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you. 2022 NCSBA Legislative Committee Service.
Yes, the North Carolina School Boards Association's Board of Directors invites each school board to nominate one of its members to serve on the North Carolina School Boards Association's Legislative Committee. The Legislative Committee's primary task is to develop the draft NCSBA legislative agenda for consideration and adoption by the Delegate Assembly. It is critical that your board's nominee is able to attend the following meetings. There's an in-person meeting on Friday, July 22nd, an in-person meeting on Monday, September 12th, and a virtual meeting on Thursday, October 6th. Those two in-person meetings will be held at the North Carolina School Boards Association offices in Raleigh. And nominees are to complete the attached application, which is relatively simple, and return it by Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022. Would you all like to nominate someone?
I would like to nominate Christian.
Second that.
So we have a nomination for myself from Ms. Adlet.
Can you do that?
Yes.
I'll second.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You hadn't voted yet, Marty.
I know, but I just feel like you're going to be like.
Nomination seconded by Mr. Heath. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? No.
Sorry.
Motion carries. Thank you for the nomination. Inclement weather day, Superintendent Farrell.
So Friday, January 21st became a no school day for students and an optional work day for staff. And there was a 2-hour delay for staff and students on Tuesday, January 25th. My recommendation is that you forgive that time for students. We have the hours to do that. And there's no need to do anything with staff as it was already designated as an optional day.
Motion by Mr. Purcell to accept the superintendent's recommendation for calendar change for the inclement weather on January 21st. Seconded by Ms. Adler. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. After school and summer daycare programs update, Ms. Adeline, Chief Student Services Officer.
Good evening. The last rate increase that we had was in 2013 and was implemented in 2014-15 school year. And what is driving the request this time is the difficulty in finding employees to work in the program. The hours are somewhat awkward, starting at 2:30 in the afternoon and ending at 6. And our turnover rate has been higher than it was a few years ago. Of course, I know that employment everywhere is sketchy for people, and I understand that, there's a lot of places that need to have employees. Our program is extremely popular with parents, and we've already had people asking, are we going to have the summer program? So they're calling Miss Brady, wanting to know what we were going to do, and we have assured them that we are going to have the summer program. The thing that I'm asking is that we have a rate increase of $5 for the after-school care program from $60 to $65 a week, and a rate increase of $5 from $95 to $100 per week for the summer daycare program. Ms. Brady puts a lot of work into the summer program with field trips and that sort of thing, so it's a very worthwhile and popular program. So I would like to ask your permission to use those rates so that we can possibly offer a higher wage and draw some interest for employment for this organization.
What are the hours for the summer?
The summer is 7:30 in the morning to 6 in the evening. And we work 2 shifts Monday with that.
It's like one of the board members asked me about the rate of pay, and I couldn't recall that. Do you know that off the top of your head?
Effective July 1st, it will be $15 per hour because that will be what we will have to pay for everybody. I would like to be able to, and I think if we have this rate increase, we should be able to possibly offer $17 an hour, which hopefully would draw some interest. I really wish that the state would relax and allow us to use 18-year-old students, but we cannot do that because it would be nice to be able to tie that to the CTE program for child development. But we're not allowed to do that, and there are very stringent requirements. They have to have a background check with fingerprints, so it's expensive for what is required for the daycare program. And we reimburse those individuals once they have the fingerprint testing and all done. So, but they do have courses they have to take, and most of those are without cost, but we try to provide everything that we can if there is a cost involved.
So do you know how the, $65 per week for the after school daycare and the summer daycare for $100 per week, how does that compare to other local programs?
Low.
Cheap.
We are low.
How,
I think that one of the comparisons I found for the summer program was $120 a week, and we're at 100, or at 95 actually right now. And for the after-school care program, it rates anywhere between 75 to 85. So it depends on the program. Another thing, we are a 5-star rated program, which is important as well, and Ms. Brady has done a great job of maintaining that. We have our annual inspection that is unannounced, and then we have another visit from our regional director who tells us she's coming just to talk with Teresa about things that are going on in the program. I would hate to lose it, but I'm afraid if the hitch is we have to have X number of employees per children. So you can't operate a daycare center, and we usually have 60 in the after-school care program. You can't operate with 2 adults watching 60 children. You're supposed to have 4 adults with 60 children. So we're walking on shorthanded grounds on several occasions because of people that have just resigned or people that will not come to work when they say they will and so forth. So dependability is another problem with employment. And I think that's a problem in other places as well, but I really would like to see this program succeed and continue.
Confident are we that with even the rate increase, that we're going to be able to staff it for the whole?
We should be able to to staff with the rate increase, but it still depends on if we're willing to apply for the position.
I just don't want to say we're going to have it and we offer it, people make their plans and then we've got to cut it halfway because we're not.
That's a possibility. I won't deny that because if we don't get, and we've had the advertisement out for a daycare employee for several months, and we've interviewed 2, and both of them have had to turn us down because when they find out the hours, they're like, oh, that's when I pick my kids up from school, I can't do that, I can't make that commitment. So we're sometimes in a bind. But I cannot promise you that we'll find the people even with the rate increase.
Well, it's definitely a good program. I know we used it when my kids were younger. I know a lot of parents depend on it. So I'll make the motion that we go with this rate increase and hope that gets the job done.
Second, I know my youngest one, when he was still doing summer camp, $100 would have been amazing. 120, 130, 140, and over each other.
Yeah, sure.
And that is my recommendation, that we, that you increase the fees as presented by Ms. Lane.
So a motion by Mr. Purcell, motion by Mr. Heath to accept the superintendent's recommendation for after-school daycare and summer daycare rate increases of $5 per week respectively for the 2022-23 school year
Yes,
and the 2022 summer daycare program.
yes.
Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Superintendent's recommendation for closed session.
Yes, sir. It's my recommendation that you approve the personnel report as presented in closed session.
Motion by Ms. Idler to accept the superintendent's recommendation for employment as presented in closed session. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements, March 16th at 5 p.m. at the central office, the Board of Education will have a budget work session as scheduled. Anybody have any other future agenda items they would like to see? Any other business? Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Dr. Banks, seconded by Ms. Idler to adjourn. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you for your support.